Welcome to Masterclass, Wrestling with Class. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Hello, everybody, students of the game of professional wrestling. Welcome to Masterclass. I am one of your co-stars and 1/3 of Delirium, the master, Amir, along with my co-star and fellow Delirium member, ladies and gentlemen. He is the merciless McCallion. McCallion, how are you feeling today?
I'm angry, Amir. I'm enraged, but I think the guest we have coming on today will have some alluring talk that will calm me down.
Absolutely. Some alluring talk. But before we get into any of that talk, McCallion, what do we request of our viewers?
We need everybody watching right now to subscribe. Just show pain to that subscribe button and just smash it down. Don't break it, but yeah.
Yeah, don't break your computers while you're at it, but you may want to, because that's the intensity we're going to have on today's show. Also, make sure you like and share these videos. And I want to remind everybody that we are live. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to contribute to the show, you've got the little super chats out there, the super chats, the super gifts, the super donations. If you want to support this channel, and we'd be more than happy to answer questions for you with our guest today, who is McCallion, the living legend. Larry Zbyszko. I mean, what can we say? This man, a voice from our childhoods, from the golden era of pro wrestling. He was a WCW superstar, WCW announcer, along with Bobby Heenan and Tony Schiavone during the Nitro, the Monday Night Wars. This is going to be epic, McCallion.
This is going to be great. And Larry has other things going on too that I'm sure he'll get involved with in the podcast here and let us know about. He's still hustling out there.
Yep, he is still hustling. He's doing a lot of things, and it's going to be interesting to talk about his new venture. For anybody out there, for our pro wrestling fans that are watching this, we will be discussing a little bit of pro wrestling today, but we're also going to be talking about shoot pro wrestling. So you may ask, what is shoot pro wrestling? Well, we're not going to take the helm on that one. You'll have to wait and see until Larry jumps on with us. He's going to jump on with us in about 3 minutes from now. So we've got a little bit of time before he comes on to the show. But during that time, McCallion, what are some of your greatest memories of Larry Zbyszko? Highlights.
Man, just him being in WCW in those original days. I feel like that was just the big Z. He was just an icon in the business. He was of the early days, definitely of WCW, and during the heat of it too. They kept Larry. He was always instrumental in there, and he played a big part in the rivalries that came on with Eric Bischoff throughout the years. I think they had him on as a commissioner type role at one point.
It would seem that way. I know he had a big role during that whole NWO part, and in fact, a bigger role than what many people may be aware of, in fact, that we're going to discuss briefly on today's episode. But yeah, you're right, McCallion. I mean, he was there when Scott Hall came over, when Kevin Nash came in. I mean, you and I both talk about this frequently, arguably the best time pro wrestling ever had. It was a time when everyone just got it.
Everyone watched it. Everyone understood it. Everyone waited until Monday nights. Monday night was the biggest night, because you had two major episodic television programs going head to head. Once that went underway, and a lot of the guys, dare I say the word, defected from one company to the other. Everyone knew who they were. There was no one that went to the other show that they were, I don't really know who that guy is. It was a major name from either WWF at the time or WCW, and they swapped ships.
Yeah, it was an incredible time. It's interesting how in today's landscape, political wrestling landscape, let's say, you don't get a lot. It's strange to me because I think competition breeds a better quality of a product. And a lot of the guys now kind of shy away from that competition. It's very odd. We're living
I feel
in
like
very
a
strange
big
times.
thing today too is when a company does acquire the other company's talent, let's say, or one was released from a contract and the other company decides to sign them. Everything's broadcast on the internet. Nothing's a surprise. Back in that day, it was surprise. There was no internet to spoil that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were no longer under contract from the WWF and signed secretly to WCW. And then you also have the biggest thing I feel like nowadays is contractual rights. So everybody signs their name away usually because they don't want to use you under your legal name, or they don't want to because they can't copyright it. So they give you a surname, they give you a character gimmick name. And then when you hop to the other company, that's no longer your name. So it kind of, I don't know, turns down the buzz. There was a couple guys that have recently left AEW and gone to NXT. And I think 9 times out of 10, they changed the name. And I feel like that loses the hype just because of search engines. Think about it. Now you got a whole different name. And before you do that name and just everything populates. But now you do the new name and things have to change over from the old hashtag to the new hashtag. It's confusing.
But speaking of an individual in a time where everything seemed to work seamless, McCallion, he is now about to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the living legend. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Larry Zbyszko.
Well, thank you for the introduction there, Amir. I wish I looked better. I didn't have much notice. And
you look good. You look good, Larry.
I know. I need a chin suck, I think. At least I still got hair.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It's a nice full head there. You're still looking sharp and professional like we remember. So,
I've been lucky. My health is great. I just got to baby the skeleton, 4 knee surgeries, elbow surgery, 73 years old, arthritis, bursitis. Yeah. So I slowed down physically so I don't hurt myself. I'm horrified of going into a hospital and say, hey, give me a new knee, doc. I might as well throw a new shoulder on while you're at it. No. I'm going through life easy and smooth.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a smart move.
And you're keeping busy. We were telling our audience right now, we're telling the viewers that you have moved on to a new venture, which is Shoot Pro Wrestling, which we're going to get into in one moment, Larry. I did want to, because I did bill this out to our audience members about the NWO. So I wanted to briefly touch on that, because that's where a lot of the pro wrestling fans know you from. So you shared with me a story about the NWO, because for years I thought that Eric Bischoff was the brainchild behind it all. But, we spoke off camera and there's some few other things.
Well, we spoke off camera, and even I think I did a podcast with Eric and stuff, and things came out because Eric had this idea originally, because he was in the office, I was on a golf course and broadcasting. But then I saw what was going on and heard what the plan was. And I'm a big researcher in ancient mythology and cycles of time, and what's happening in reality is a new world order that's getting more into technology and farther away from the reality of nature. Mm-hmm. So even back then, I was saying on my broadcast, oh my God, this is becoming, we're going to have a new world order.
Yeah.
And Eric, who's a smart guy, he heard that, and he said, that's it. That's the name. We're going to call it the New World Order.
Okay.
And then he had a meeting. We laid some stuff out, and there was some ideas. And I put my hand up, and everybody kind of looked at me, the Crockett's and everybody in the meeting, and Eric, and they went, what? And I said, you know what? If you're going to do this, do it this way. And I'm the one that influenced the name, the New World Order, but I programmed the beginning of it. The way Scott Hall first came in, I changed the whole beginning of the storyline and the way it happened, because if you know programming, if you want to get something the biggest and the hottest, you've got to do it right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And Eric
was instrumental.
After I said my idea, I quote Eric. Eric said, "Damn, you pissed me off. Your idea is so much better than mine. We'll do it your way." And he was smart enough to listen, and I programmed the whole beginning of it, the New World Order, Scott Hall. It got so hot, Eric wanted to get involved, so
Yeah.
I did some things. So me and Eric had a match where I saved Nitro from the New World Order, and then me and Scott Hall had a match. And I'm proud to put myself over and say that when I wrestled in the pay-per-views, me and Eric and me and Scott Hall, those are two of the biggest buy rates WCW pay-per-views ever had.
Yeah, it was an incredible time. And for you to witness that, because you were in WCW, what, like 91, 92, 93, you were there.
Doing the broadcasting. And I never planned to be a broadcaster. That's another story.
Yeah, we won't go into that one right now. But what was, if I may ask, what was the original plan? Do you remember for the introduction of the New World Order, what the original idea was?
Well, they had some idea where they were just going to have Scott Hall sitting like at ringside, just sitting there.
Yeah.
Like, well, guys, the New World Order, I said, if you're going to have an invasion idea and make it look like the WWE guys are invading WCW, do it the right way. So I set up where they had a match going on in the ring, and then halfway during the match, Scott Hall walks down and gets in the ring, and the two guys look at him and know it's Scott Hall and go, "What the hell's going on here?" And then some other things happen. And Eric went, that's a great idea. And even Bobby Heenan said, "Hey, that's never been done before."
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you have an invasion idea, work it like it's an invasion. Don't just have them sit there at ringside eating popcorn.
Yeah.
Invade, bust into a match and screw up the show and get heat.
Yeah. I mean, for us, Larry, from our point of view, for McCallion and I, we were spectators at the time. And I can say for me, McCallion, I'm not sure about you, but for me, that was the height of wrestling right there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think wrestling's ever going to be that hot again because it was the hottest thing ever. But then the era's changed too. I mean, that went on 3 or 4 or 5 months, but then it started changing a little bit. And I didn't want to get involved in the changes because I had a good life going, a big contract from Turner to talk. And Eric was getting sucked in more into not the political part, but he was hanging out with the Hulk and, playing big shot, having a good time. Yeah. But he was starting to surround himself with people that were giving him a whole bunch of ideas. And then pretty soon you had the black and white New World Order, then the red and black New World Order, and then the Latino World Order. And then, it just started getting diluted. I would have done it different and had it going. And the frustrating part to me when I quit watching wrestling for 10 years or more was when WCW was the biggest, highest rated show on television, Ted Turner sold out. And in the meantime, we were building a new superstar. We were building a new Bruno, a new Hulk. His name was Goldberg.
Right.
And people were chanting Goldberg the whole show. I mean, they chant Larry, and I'd give them the big L.
Yeah.
And then they chant Goldberg. When Goldberg beat Hogan in the Atlanta Dome, the pop was so huge, it broke the decibel record for the loudest noise ever made inside the Atlanta Dome. Wow. And that was held by the monster trucks.
Wow. What a comparison.
And then there was so many guys up Eric's butt, it started going different directions. So I just kind of did my thing at the beginning, got it going right. And then Turner why, because he was a wrestling fan. I met Ted. I knew Ted. He loved wrestling. It was the show that when he first started with his one little trailer, TBS, that kept him in business. But then he sold out to AOL, Time Warner.
Yeah.
And they just wanted the 24-hour fake news. They didn't want wrestling. They didn't want the Braves. They didn't want football. They didn't want sports. So WCW got canceled.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people lost their jobs, great jobs. They had the highest rated show on television.
Yeah.
And I've heard Turner make some talks after that saying he was mad at himself for giving away over 51% or whatever he did.
Mm-hmm. You live and you learn. It was a sad time. I mean, I know, again, for me. Yeah.
And then look at what happened. Then they bring this idiot writer in, some schmuck from Long Island who worked for his parents selling CDs.
Vince Russo.
Yeah, Vince Google.
Yep.
And so you watch the pay-per-view or imagine the people are chanting Goldberg, but who winds up winning and becoming the heavyweight champion? The writer. That's when I clicked off the television and didn't watch wrestling for 10 years. It was not allowed in my house.
It was that last part of WCW.
Yeah.
It was terrifying to see how from 1998, McCallion, I'll cast your mind back. If you think back to Fall Brawl 98, Road Wild 98, and you flash forward to Road Wild 99, the difference in WCW was it's like it was a whole different company. They lost everything. Yeah.
And you could tell that it was behind the scenes. It was almost like they pulled the curtain. You could see that it was just animosity to everybody on television.
Turner sold out and they knew it was getting canceled. That's why they didn't renew my contract, Bobby Heenan's contract, Eric's contract. They had this idiot writer, but they knew it was getting canceled. So it just went to crap.
Yeah. It was a travesty.
But Larry, note for it to end on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was sad. It was a sad day in wrestling. Before we switch gears and talk about Shoot Pro Wrestling, Larry, I want to premise things a little bit here. So the reason I want to bring it up, it's interesting because we mentioned about Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan in WCW. Now, recently, as we know, Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff have announced the launch of their new company, Real American Freestyle. And they've boldly proclaimed that there's nothing else like it. No one else is doing this. It's an original idea, et cetera, et cetera. Now, quickly to share with you both, I did do some research. Kyle Snyder, which I guess he was a top pick.
Snyder, who's that?
He was a top pick for Eric and Hogan to be at the helm of the Real American Freestyle. He's just been busted for prostitution. Ring.
Prostitution?
Yeah, I just got that information today.
Carl Snyder, I mean, what was he? Was he in...
I guess he was a wrestler,
and they
were plugging him to be a big star for them. Yeah, so I mean that news just came out. And also before I begin, everybody, and we talk about Shoot Pro Wrestling, the company that Larry's involved with, it's interesting to note that the third guy, so Hogan and Bischoff's third guy, Izzy Martinez,
who I never heard of.
Well, Izzy Martinez, he's a coach, and he was tracking scientificwrestling.com, which of course is ran by Jake, whose affiliation of you, Shoot Pro Wrestling. So there's a lot of connections here between the two companies. But for the benefit of our viewers, Larry, I want you to tell the story of where Shoot Pro Wrestling comes from and what it is before we go into this.
I mean, retirement's cool. My health is great. I babied a skeleton, but retirement can get a little boring. Mm-hmm. And I got contacted maybe a few months ago now about this new television show, this new sport. And I found out about it, Shoot Pro. Mm-hmm. And what Shoot Pro is, and the reason I'm super excited about it is because you got to look at the reality of what it is. Shoot Pro, I mean, professional wrestling, shooters, hookers, it's an ancient sport. It was big in the Egyptian society thousands of years ago. It was a big sport in ancient Rome, and it was the Romans who turned wrestling into a real physically brutal, art and science of anatomy, how to break your elbow, how to pop your shoulder out of joint, how to put someone to sleep, break their neck. And, professional wrestling kind of evolved out of that, but the real submission wrestlers, the real shooters, that hasn't been seen for thousands of years. And a lot of people don't know, at the beginning of television in the 40s or so, early 50s, when every house had a little black and white TV and every roof had a big antenna sticking out of it.
Yeah.
We only got 4 channels.
Right.
And one public service station no one watched. So we had 3 channels. But you got to realize the submission wrestling, the art of and the science of human anatomy, how to put a grip on you can't break.
Yeah.
How to put a hold on so you can pop an elbow. How to put someone to sleep in a choke, which isn't a choke. You just shut off the blood flow to the brain with the oxygen. Mm-hmm. So it's a sport that hasn't been seen for thousands of years. And when television first started, professional wrestling came out of the circus. That was like the last stronghold of the true shooters, was the circus. And then it became a television show and stayed on TV because it always got high ratings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's a real sport. It's ancient. And if you're a top-notch shooter, submission wrestler, you can beat one-on-one anybody. Boxers have the best hands. Mm-hmm. You're a submission wrestler. You don't care. You're not going to stay in range of his punches. You're not going to try to outpunch him. Right. Sooner or later, he's going down and getting his arm broke. Mm-hmm. Even the martial arts, karate is kicking and punching. Jiu-jitsu, a little takedown, a couple hooks. The UFC is another takeoff, but it's kind of sloppy compared to the pure art of submission wrestling, because you got punches and kicks and some wrestling. And when I heard what Shoot Pro was, the real true submission sport, it is, because I know a shooter can beat anybody one-on-one, that I got really excited about it. And there's a couple of things attached to, because it's brand new. It's an old ancient sport, but it's brand new on television. So we don't know who the stars are. Right. We don't know who the best of the best is. We're going to be able to watch this, and the stars will make themselves by who wins, or who goes off to the hospital. So we'll find out before our eyes who the best of the best is. Yeah. So I'm excited about that, because right now we don't know, but we're going to find out before our very eyes. And I'm excited about it.
It's a very interesting premise, because obviously you've got these guys who can then further their career out of college. They can continue doing this sort of, shoot pro wrestling style. Are there any plans? Now, I know you've got your show coming up soon, right, Larry? Do you know where it's going to be on Triller, right? You're going to be on Triller.
I'm not a good computer guy. I have a flip phone that should tell you everything. I don't tweet. I don't do social media. I don't watch weirdos dance around, TikTok and all that. I'm hooked on you, Larry.
It's a safe bet.
Yeah, but they told me they got a TV deal signed with this Trilla. And when you think about it, growing up, I had 4 stations. Nowadays, there's thousands of stations out there streaming and networks, and I can't figure, Roku's and Tubies and Boobies and all that stuff. Netflix and this and you're beyond me, but it's going to be, and I'm not exactly sure when it's starting, but it should be starting pretty soon, because they got some matches filmed, ready to go. They're editing some shows together. They started off, and I gave them some ideas about where the lighting's got to be different. You got to have the cameras on a low angle on the mat because the action happens on the mat. That's where you get hooked.
Yeah.
If you have a camera above you, all you're going to see is someone's back on top of somebody and not see how they're hooked.
Yeah.
And they made some changes. And I think once the people watch this and realize, number one, this is real. And number two, this is brutal. I called one match where the guy's arm, his elbow popped out, and you could see on his face as he tapped, pure agony. I mean, this is brutal, not for the faint of heart.
No.
But it's exciting because we don't know who the stars are yet. We're going to get to watch them come to life before our very eyes.
Watch them blossom. And I want to let all our viewers know, if you go over to shootprowrestling.com, you can find out some more information about Shoot Pro Wrestling. And also, I want to ask you, Larry, what is the difference between the Shoot Pro that you're involved with and then Hulk Hogan's Real American Freestyle? What is the difference between?
Well, not the Real American beer. What are you doing?
No, that's his brand. He's the Real American brand. I guess he's just branding everything. So he'll brand Hooters under that too soon.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, to be honest with you, again, I got a flip phone. I don't do social media. I'm not involved with stuff. I hear things. But what I heard about Shoot Pro and got involved with them first before I even heard about the Hogan Bischoff starting a show with the freestyle. And what freestyle is basically part of amateur wrestling, like from the Olympics, freestyle. And that's takedowns. Mm-hmm. And that's all it is. So you got two guys in the ring and they go by takedowns. You take me down. Two guys are on the mat for 5 seconds or so. The ref blows the whistle, and they both get up and go at each other again. And whoever gets the most takedowns, I guess is the winner. Mm-hmm. But takedowns is just the very beginning of the tip of the pen of what wrestling is. And compared to, submission wrestling, it's got nothing to do with breaking your arm, popping your shoulder out, putting you to sleep, breaking your knee.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be interesting, if you're into takedowns, it might get a little boring after a while, but it's not what Shoot Pro is.
Let's talk about pin and submission then. So what are the pin and submission within Shoot Pro Wrestling?
Well, Shoot Pro submission's the stuff you got to watch out for, really. Mm-hmm. But when the UFC first started, I looked at it, but I didn't get into it because it was boring. I think it was Gracie's from Brazil. I mean, they had starting the UFC jiu-jitsu guys. But what they would do is they weren't into takedowns because takedowns isn't going to hook anybody. You got to be on the mat. Mm-hmm. And when they rang the bell, the Gacy guy or the guy, they would lay right down on the mat and lay there and move on their back and wait and hope the other guy, tries to come in and grab them, because that's where they're going to get hooked. That's where the shooters are going to hook you. A good shooter, it's an art and a science of human anatomy, but it's also an art of setting traps. One was called the sugar foot, where they'd come in with their hands up and their balance, and they'd have one foot in front of the other foot with not much weight on it. And they made it look like there was an opening, especially for an amateur, like, please leg dive me. Please try to take me down. They wanted you to try to take them down, because on the way down is when they're hooking you.
Right.
If you don't keep your head up, which you have to, if you leg dive with your head down, you're going to get front face lock, front chancery. Out you go. If you're too much to the side, you're going to get arm barred and pop your elbow. Mm-hmm. So when the UFC first started, it was kind of boring because they laid on their back a lot and come on, do something, guys. So Shoot Pro, which was the full spectrum of wrestling, pins and submissions. They put the pins in so it wouldn't get boring. So some guy just couldn't lay there on his back for 2-3 minutes and wait for something to happen. Because if you're on your back, and it's not like a 1, 2, 3, it's more like an amateur count. Ref's there, 1.5 seconds, boom.
Yeah.
You're out.
You're done.
So there's 3 5-minute periods, I believe.
Okay.
And whoever gets the most pins or submissions, but the pins are made not just to be a good part of wrestling, but to keep the action going, because you don't want to just lay there on your back, because then you can get pinned. Plus, it's boring for the fans. So Shoot Pro's giving them both sides of the story.
Yeah, especially in this day and age, especially with people's attention spans now.
Yeah,
and I'm probably talking to some of our viewers out there. If you're thinking of tuning out, don't tune out, because we got a lot more coming along. But I do want to mention, actually, for the benefit of everybody, Larry. So for Shoot Pro Wrestling, I'm going to let everybody know that Pat Miletich is the president of that company. Pat is a former UFC champion, and also Frank Shamrock is the chairman of that company. So there's some heavy hitters involved in this deal. I believe also Gerald Briscoe from the world.
Yeah, Jerry's involved. I mean, there's guys in there involved that love submission wrestling. I mean, again, it's a real sport. It's a true sport. It's an ancient sport. Before they invented footballs and baseballs and all that stuff, ancient Egypt, Romans, they still refer to some stuff as Greco-Roman, but it was the Romans that turned it into nasty, and you got guys involved in it, Shamrock, Briscoe, because they love it. It's a true sport, and again, the excitement of watching the stars build themselves, because we don't know. I mean, God, pretty soon in Vegas, they'll be placing bets.
Yeah.
This guy's 4-0. This guy's 4-0. Oh, who's going to win? Place your bets. Yeah. Because you get some guys that are equal, and it boils down to this: the human game of chess. You may both be great. Who's smarter?
Yeah.
Who's going to make that one mistake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it. I feel the competition coming through, McCallion. I think we're in the wrong form of pro wrestling.
I know it's sounding like it's a new world order is coming through again.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different world order. I mean, wrestling evolved, and I mean, the WWE is a great company. When I started, if you got hurt, you're out of business.
Yeah.
You get hurt in the WWE, they pay for your surgery. You're home for months rehabbing. You're getting a check. And their rings, SmackDown, Raw, NXT, are filled with amazing athletes. They're amazing. They work their butts off, but they do exactly what the WWE commentators say they're doing. They're putting on an awesome performance.
Yeah.
Shoot Pro is not a performance.
Right.
It's a sport that can put you in the emergency room.
Now let's talk about that, Larry, because I want to go back and share some of your affinity with Shoot Pro Wrestling. So tell us a little bit about, for the benefit of a younger audience watching us, tell us how you fell in love with that form, and then what led you into pro wrestling.
Well, when I was a kid, I think I was 12 years old. My dad got transferred to Pittsburgh. That was the first time I got to see professional wrestling on TV. Long story short, I became a big fan of pro wrestling, especially my hero, Bruno Sammartino. And he was, and will always be, the most truly beloved wrestler ever. I mean, he was such an honest guy. His word was his contract. He was an immigrant that escaped World War II with his young brother and his mother from the Nazis, going through the woods trying to escape to America. His mother was shot in the leg. So he was like the pure story of the American dream, someone that could come here. And he was almost dying from malnutrition because they couldn't hang out downtown. The Nazis would kill him. So he was like the pure American dream story. People knew it. He was very humble. And back in those days, the audience and time was different. When Bruno was bleeding and fell to the ring, people in the audience had heart attacks. Some died. It became a bad joke. Bruno, you're killing off our audience. But that's how much they truly believed and loved in the man.
Yeah.
And I got into it, and it was kind of, it changes eras. Bruno and Killer Kowalski and the Crusher and the Bruiser and Ivan Koloff and Vern Gagne, they were kind of the end of an old school era. But right before them was another old school era, the old school era of shooters that came out of the circus to wind up on television. And that's another story about the circus. It's very interesting. But I got involved with that. But when I did, even in those days, the shooters were still there. So, Bruno would send me to like Vancouver, British Columbia for 6 months, work for Kaninsky to get experience because I just turned 21. I benched 465 and a half pounds with the 1 second pause. I weighed like 245. I was a great amateur wrestler. And then when I went to some of these places like Vancouver, I met some old school guys from that were getting old, but they were the shooters. One guy named was John Foley from Wigan, England. And he was an older guy and didn't have any money or a car. So I'd take him. I said, John, ride with me. I'll drive you to the town, And in return, John said, well, I'll tell you what, let's go early and we'll work out in the ring and I'll show you some stuff, from Wigan in the old days of shooting, and be a hooker, how to really hurt people. Because a lot of the wrestling holds were real, but they didn't put the full pressure on.
Got it. Okay.
So I had lucked out and had the advantage of meeting old school guys who knew how to shoot. We called them hookers. You don't want to say hookers now, people might get the wrong idea.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification out there, Larry.
Yeah. Unless you're Kyle Snyder.
They'd hook you with shooters. So I met John Foley, Billy Robinson. I even learned a couple of cool things from Gene LaBelle. From the LaBelle family ran California. You'd see Gene do stunts in some movies. He was a character. But these guys were really tough, knew how to break your bones kind of guys. And I came in at a time when they were dying out, but still there. And then I'm kind of glad I'm retired now because the way wrestling is now, it's what the announcers say it is. It's an awesome performance. And they're getting on the top turnbuckle and they're back flipping and crashing through tables.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really doing, dangerous high-risk stuff. They're working their butts off, amazing athletes. And again, WWE, a great company, they'll pay for all your injuries. But the problem is, and I've helped out a couple guys, but I made them realize wrestling is not a long-term career. It's not a guaranteed long-term career at all. It could last a week and you'll never be able to walk right again, with your knee blown and your ACL shot or your neck and concussions. So it really turned into a very entertaining, but, high risk, dangerous, form of entertainment to watch. And it all came from the very beginning, thousands of years ago, from what we call now, submission wrestling.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because McCallion, while Larry was talking there, it made me think of what you and I often talk about, a lot of high spots, sometimes not necessary at all.
Too many.
Too many. When you were in WCW, you had the cruiserweights and they were doing all the high flying stuff, which made sense. It was an attraction. It was a special attraction.
It was its own division, which set them apart.
But they were smaller guys. They were lighter on their feet, you know.
They were smaller guys that could do acrobatics. I mean, you know, you didn't see 300 pounds of Kevin Nash flip off the top rope.
But the thing is, Larry, he didn't have to, because his character didn't call for it. You know what I mean?
I remember the first time, I think the first small guy cruiserweight I remember coming into WCW was Rey Mysterio.
Yep.
And he's still going. I mean, the guy's great. He's still going, so he's been lucky.
Yeah, he's still going. I wanted to, Larry, I wanted to toot your horn a little bit there, because I have a little bio about you here that I wanted to read. Yeah. Well, Larry Zbyszko, you know, he was a wrestling champion out of Pennsylvania, right? You were out of Pennsylvania. What was the name of your high school?
North Allegheny.
North Allegheny.
North Hills in Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yep. And then, as Bruno Sammartino noted, Larry, then you went to wrestle for Penn State University. So you were there in Penn State. And then you were part of the most dominant wrestling program in the United States. And you won more national titles than any team this century. How about that, Larry? Why did you let that slip? Why didn't you tell us this?
Well, it was kind of a weird story, because the amateur stuff is great and I loved it. By the time I was in college, though, my mind was getting more and more into the professional. And I took martial arts during the off season, you know, to keep learning more stuff, you know, and flips and other techniques. But the stupid thing about it was, I mean, one time we had a match, Penn State against like our rival, right? And our rival college was beating us. They beat like everybody. And I wrestled 191 in college. Okay. Then after me was the heavyweight. And even if both of us won, our team would have still lost, because all the lighter weights won. Okay. So I get out in the ring on the mat with a bad attitude, tie up with the guy, grab a single leg, pick him up, drop him on his shoulders, go for the pin. The referee goes down. I jump up and I go, come on. This is amateur college. That's not done.
Yeah.
Well, both teams stood up. A big fight broke out. And then later that night, there was a party, a college party at some facility in the college. And I went there. And I'll tell you guys, it was the first and last time I ever drank alcohol. I think alcohol should be illegal.
Yeah, it's poison.
So me and my buddy are in a room. We're drinking. I drank like half a bottle, a fifth of vodka. Never drank before. Me and him are cracked. We go down to this building where the party was, the college party, and we're drunk, and we get in, and I have to go to the men's room, but I go into the ladies' room by mistake. And what do I see on the walls? A Kotex machine.
Okay.
Like, so I kick it off the wall. And money falls out of the Kotex machine. So I pick up the money, and me and my buddy Joey, we go to another ladies' room and kick the Kotex machine.
Oh, man.
In the meantime, somebody there called the assistant dean and said, hey, there's two drunk college kids here. They're making a scene. They're, you know, starting fights, kicking machines. So we stagger outside, and as I'm doing something or yelling at somebody because they wouldn't let me back in, some guy grabs my shoulder, spins me around, wham! I nail him and knock him out. Anyway, it turns out I knocked out the assistant dean of Penn State. I got kicked off the wrestling team, and I really didn't care, as I just wanted to be a pro wrestler so bad.
Yeah.
But that was just stupid. You know what? We finished drinking for like almost a whole day. I had the dry heaves. I puked and then had the dry heaves. And from that day, I've never drank my whole adult life.
Yeah.
I had two cousins killed in the car wreck because they were driving drunk. I think alcohol should be illegal.
Drinking is a severe poison. It's a severe addiction. I don't drink. I've never
It
drank.
makes people completely stupid.
Yeah,
I don't get it. They're worried about having to puff on a joint. Don't get drunk.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But I wanted to touch on a couple of other points there, Larry. So then after that, in pro wrestling, British shooter John Foley took you under his wing, teaching you submissions. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was the guy when I went there. We lived actually in Blaine, Washington at some cheap motel. And we worked Gene Kaninsky, and we'd do some North Washington state shows, and then we'd go to Vancouver or take the ferry boat to, I think, Victoria Island. And John Foley, again, he was an older guy, not, and the old shooters weren't big, scary guys. They didn't look like Brock Lesnar,
Right.
But again, so I tell John, I said, John, I felt sorry for the guy. I said, come on, you ride with me. I'll drive you around. No trans. I'd get the room. We'd throw a mattress on the floor. I said, here, you sleep on that. So I helped him out. And then he said to me, well, let's go to the ring early because I feel I owe you something. So we'd get to the building where the show was earlier before people, and he would show me the hooks and show me the artist setting guys up and how to break an elbow, which isn't hard at all, how to pop his shoulder out, the sugar hole, how to pop a knee. I broke one guy's leg. We're working with the labels, and I felt bad. In the old days, guys in the neighborhood and the people would come by, you get some wise guy be bugging the promoters saying, hey, I could beat your wrestlers, ha ha. So the promoters would go to one of the hookers and say, will you get rid of this guy? And Gene LaBelle came to me and said, hey, there's this guy here, just take him in the ring, stretch him. And so I said, okay. So I get in the ring with this guy before anybody gets there. And we say, okay, let's see what you got. And if you can wrestle, they'll book you. We're lying. And I look at the guy, holy shit, he's 6'6", 280 pounds. I mean, he looked like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
I'm going, oh my God, I wasn't taking any chances. So as soon as he went to tie up, I laid over him and I put my hand right behind his ankle. And when you do that, you drive your shoulder right into his kneecap. And you got his ankle blocked. So when I drove my shoulder, I could hear his knee pop. Damn. And he went down like a big tree, going, oh, my knee. And I acted stupid. I went, oh my God, I heard, are you okay? I didn't tell him. But the promoter, Gene LaBelle, loved me after that.
Yeah.
But that's what the promoters wanted, because then the guys would go back to the neighborhood and say, hey, these guys are real. I got in the ring, but when he broke my leg. Yeah. So it was good for business.
Yeah.
Back in the old days.
Very good for business. And, I noticed also, by the way, viewers, we encourage you to ask questions. If you want to ask a question, hit a super chat. One of your super stickers there, and then we'll read your questions. But also, McCallion, sorry, give me a moment, Larry. Jose, the assistant, by the way, Flex is dead, just so you know. Just McCallion's. Nothing, Larry. It's just between McCallion and I. But a fan is writing in. I just want to refer that Flex is dead. So I just want to reiterate that to everybody. But while we've been talking, Larry, my co-star, Mario Mancini from Power and Glory, also on this channel, has been watching. He mentioned Bruno Sammartino. He's very interested in Shoot Pro Wrestling. He has joined us, so I'm going to patch him in right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Mario Mancini. He'll be on with us right now. Mario, you there? Can you hear us, Mario?
Did you just call him Larry?
Larry's a...
Did you really just do that?
He's the living legend. Okay, Mario.
More than that.
More than that.
I met Mr. Zabisco in Rhode Island. He gave me the the privilege to sit down and speak with him. And you have to realize the magnitude of him being on this podcast is huge.
Yeah. I know.
This is a man who came in this business with the big cat, Ernie Ladd, the mighty Igor, Baron Miguel Cicluna, Andre, Strongbow, Bruno.
Yep.
Lighter guys like Johnny Rods and Pete King. And I know because I started watching it in 1973.
That's the year I started.
When I was 7. And when I sat down with Mr. Zbyszko in Rhode Island, I told him, I unloaded on him. And I told him how he made my brother's 13 years older than me. So my brother, I was 12 at the time, 12 or 13. And my brother wept. He wept. He said, "Did you see what he did to Bruno Sammartino?" To this day, no one will ever see more blood in the ring than that day, than that night. It was a puddle. It was a puddle your foot would sink into. There was so much blood in that ring.
Yeah.
The greatest, don't care what anybody says, the greatest angle ever, the greatest storyline ever in pro wrestling. I watch it every time. I show my students when we have a guy that's been going for a year and a half, smiling in the ring, say, well, maybe now it's time for you to turn heel. This is how you do it. Watch Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mario.
Yeah.
Larry Zbyszko has more wrestling knowledge and understands this business. He's got more knowledge in the fingernail of his pinky than any major company running today.
Yeah.
Whether it be the WWE, AEW, he must look at the TV and laugh and go, "That's wrong. That's wrong."
I'm more like slit my wrist.
We hear that quite often.
So I know the magnitude. The magnitude is he was in this business when you guys were tadpoles looking for an egg to fertilize. So I know the magnitude of Larry Zbyszko. I broke into the pro wrestling business because Bruno Sammartino was everything to me. Yeah. Everything. Every day of my life, while kids were idolizing, Emmett Smith or quarterback Reggie Jackson, Carl Yastrzemski, Pete Rose, Bruno was it for me. And I had a dream to be another Bruno. And I ended up, and you know what? The man I'm about to mention, mind you, could work his ass off, by the way. But just like me, you couldn't see that on TV. I ended up becoming another Frank Williams. That's okay. That's okay, because somebody had to get these guys over, and it was me. Okay? And I would have loved to go on a podcast and say I did a job for Larry Zbyszko. Oh my God. That would have been, it was bad enough in the Boston Garden when there was a Legends Battle Royal and Bruno came trotting down the aisle and got in the ring, and I froze. The bell rang and I froze, and SD Jones grabbed me in the headlock and said, "What are you doing?" I go, "I can't move." He said, "Why?" I go, I'm in the ring with Bruno. He goes, "You got to move." I go, "I can't move." And he headbutted me, and I sold the hell out of that because that was his thing. If it is sell SD's headbutt, you're in trouble. I did what I did. I broke in 6 weeks after I was 18 years old. So I graduated high school, and 6 weeks later, I'm looking across at Greg Valentine. And I have little tiny things to hold on to. Tiny, like helping the Sheik back to the dressing room after Hogan took the title from him, holding Piper back in the war to settle the score, being people's debut matches, the Hart Foundation, King Kong Bundy, Skinner, Big Bully Busick, Hercules Hernandez, The Undertaker. Now, I didn't go to Mr. Zabisco, Tony Altomar. Tony Altomar's wrestling.
Oh, God, he was a classic, wasn't he?
Come here, kid. Come here. Come here, kid.
Yeah.
I didn't go to Tony Altomar's wrestling school and go, I can't wait to be one of the top 10 losers in pro wrestling history. I didn't do that. I had visions, but it ended up that way. I didn't want it to be that way. But, you know, in fact, when I went up to Strongbow, he referenced Mr. Zabisco. I said, I have an idea. He goes, what's your idea? And I'm so thrilled I get to tell this story with him here because I've never told it with him here. It's the first time ever. I said, I have an idea, Chief. He goes, what's your idea? I go, put me in with Piper. Have him give me the most brutal beating he's ever given anybody. I mean, a sadistic, brutal beating. He goes, okay. I go, and every time he pauses and looks over at Bruno and says, Dago, Guinea, Wop, Greaseball. And then Bruno comes in. He runs. Bruno takes me. I said, Chief, I'll live in a gym and I'll do what I got to do. Whatever. Change my whole people's perception of me. Be under Bruno's wing. He goes, that's not where the money is. I go, what do you mean? He goes, that's not where the money is. I go, well, where's the money? He goes, then you got to turn on Bruno. That's where the money is. That's what Caesar's going to want. He's going to want you to turn on Bruno. And it's already been done. They're not going to do it again. I said, but I don't have to turn on Bruno. No. That's where the money is. And it's already been done, and they're not going to do it again. So that went by the wayside. But I went into the ring with these guys, and I was a lot of debut matches. I don't like being called an enhancement talent. I'm not a human Viagra. I don't like being called that. I'm a jobber, right? And I gave these guys my bodies, and I put them over well. In fact, when they needed a stretcher and they needed them over big, or a guy was injured, like the honky tonk man with torn pec, there are a lot of guys that showed up to TV that you never seen before in your life. And then there were guys like me and Iron Mike Sharp and SD Jones and, you know, Barry Horowitz, the steadies. And they would say, no, put him in with Mancini, he'll be fine. Well, they called on me to do that. And that's what they did with The Undertaker. The Undertaker, in his Hall of Fame speech, said his debut night, he had a jobber that screwed up his match, so he had to take it to him. And Vince really let him have it for that. And my phone blew up. I said, that was not me. That was the guy after me. My match was seamless. Because at that point, I'm 7 years into the wrestling business, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out there and bump. What do you want me to do? So everybody was blowing up my phone, and I'm like, no, that wasn't me. And he had a big speech about respect. I mean, he had a long diatribe in his Hall of Fame speech about respect. And then right after that, he made fun of the jobbers. I recently saw a YouTube video of him doing an interview on a podcast, and he goes, I was with this jabroni one night. Can we still call them jabronis?
Wow.
And the host goes, I don't know, jabrones. He goes, all right, jabron. Well, you know what? That wasn't my plan. That wasn't my plan. And I was a very good wrestler. I'm going to tell you why. Because Tony Altomar brought me into that wrestling school in 1983, and he taught me how to bump. And he taught me how to hit the ropes and the turnbuckles and go through the middle and over the top, which was incorrect, by the way. And then when I broke in, about 5 months after I broke in, Fuji grabbed a hold of me. And he said, there's a lot of things you're doing wrong. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we would get in the ring. And Fuji showed me the right way. And Fuji started working with me. And Fuji started working with Roma. And we became a lot better wrestlers.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know what his problem is. You know, in 1980, at midnight, I was in my living room. There was an empty arena, and the only two people that sat there was Vince McMahon and Bruno Sammartino. And he said, Bruno, you have something to tell the fans? He said, yeah, I'm retiring. My last match will be against George Steele at Shea Stadium. And I was 14, and I looked at my family, which I'm the last of 6 kids, and I said, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. And they went, what? I said, I'm going to be a professional wrestler for the WWF, because that's what it was back then, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. I said, I'm going to be a professional wrestler, and I'm going to take Bruno's spot. I'm going to be the next Bruno Sammartino, not the next jabroni. And 4 years later, from 14 to 18, I'm in Poughkeepsie, New York, looking across from Greg Valentine going, I'm in the TV.
Yeah.
I used to be sitting in my living room. I went through the tube, and now I'm in the TV. On top of that, for a kid to look up to Michael Jordan or any of these athletes, to grow up looking up to somebody and then becoming their friend, to walk in the dressing room and say, hey, Mancini, how are you? To sit down with them in the dressing room and talk to them, laugh with them. That's mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I'm not a jabroni. Now, we're talking about Shoot Pro Wrestling. A month from today, I'm going to be 59 years old. When I worked with The Undertaker, I was 24 and he was 25.
Okay.
I'm kind of sick of it.
Hmm.
And if Mr. Zbyszko is going to be involved with this, and Frank Shamrock is going to be involved with this, I've been thinking that maybe I should learn how to shoot more than I learned when I was younger, and maybe give this a last run with this Shoot Pro Wrestling if these gentlemen would be kind enough to train me.
Mario, hold on. Let me interject. Are you saying you want to be part of Shoot Pro Wrestling?
I don't want to be in the business end of Shoot Pro Wrestling. I want to be a Shoot Pro wrestler. And I want to show Mark Calloway how much of a jabroni I am.
Wait a minute. McCallion, am I hearing this correct? So you want Larry to teach you Shoot Pro, him and Frank and his crew, and are you officially challenging The Undertaker, Mark Calloway?
I want to show Mark Calloway how much of a jabroni I am.
Wow. Larry?
Well, just a quick comment. Well, number one, I really don't know the Taker. I mean, I wasn't in there when he did his thing there. I was always somewhere else.
Yeah.
But at his age, and he's got money and he's getting the push, to get in the ring with somebody and have a shoot, why would he even think of taking a chance of getting hurt? And the same with you, Mario, at your age. I mean, God, at my age, there ain't no way in hell I'm getting in the ring to shoot with anybody. Because you know, Mario, it's brutal. It's physically brutal. And if I was the Undertaker, just off the top of my head, I says, I got money. I'm on TV. I'm still getting pushed. Why would I even take a chance of getting hurt? I mean, you can throw challenges out, but I wouldn't keep my fingers crossed.
Well, I'll tell you what, he can do that, or he can appreciate that there were men. You know, I'm sure Mr. Zbyszko is familiar with this saying. I can't draw you a house. I can't. But I can build you one.
Mm.
And I've built many. You know, before WrestleMania 3, we need a stretcher with Bundy, Mancini. Before WrestleMania, well, we need somebody to take a pile driver on the concrete floor. One kid said, I'm not doing that. Chief came up to me, he goes, you take a pile driver on the concrete floor? I said, oh, yeah, sure. He goes, you okay with that? I go, yeah. Yep. Walked right up to Orndorff. I said, it's you and I. Yeah, baby, yeah. Okay, baby, I'll take care of you. I go, I know that. There's a guy that I would do a job for, and it's not necessary. This is what I liked. The 3 count. Thank you, brother. That meant the world to me. Everything on the 3 count. But Orndorff, he would do that on the 3 count. Then, because he left first, because I had to stay down and sell, the several times I worked with him, he's waiting for me through the curtain. Thank you. He passes me in the dressing room midway. An hour later, thank you, baby. We're leaving for the night. We're walking out, arm around me. Thanks again. I mean, he doesn't have to do that. One thank you is great, but that was the kind of man Orndorff was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Bundy would see my name up on the board that I was working with him, it was like a little kid. Bundy had so much respect for me that we did a house show in 1999 and wanted to pay me back for what I did for him in New York, and told me to move on the Avalanche and cover him for the 3 count. I went,
nice.
Not doing that. He goes, why be so hard-headed? I go, not doing that. He goes, why do you have to give me a hard time? I go, let's set aside the love and the friendship, and let's look at the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Mighty Mouse does not go over on King Kong. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Just not going to do it.
You know, let me say something, Mario, because I'm listening to you pour your heart out. You obviously, you're into this with your soul. I mean, if you want to get together sometime and you're serious about this, I mean, I'll show you some stuff I know that after I see how you move, what you can and, could do and shouldn't do. And I don't mind I helped a couple guys out, but thank God they got real jobs. But at your stage of the game and with your career, obviously it's something in your soul here. I mean, if you want to challenge somebody, let me know. I mean, I'll help you out.
It would be a privilege to get your help, and I would.
Where do you live at?
I live in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I used to have a house in Cheshire, Connecticut, years and years ago.
Town. Yeah, beautiful town.
Well, I tell you what, Larry, and listening to this, Mario, this was totally unexpected. But after I've known Mario now, we've gone almost a year now, Mario, and I know the valor of this man. I know his passion for this business and this industry. And I know when you get to know somebody and you hear someone, even a hero like to McCallion and I, like the Undertaker was, but when you sometimes hear these things they say on a personal level and the guy, then things change. And I did take offense for what Taker said about you, labeling you like that, because you guys were an integral part of building the product. I mean, let's face it, without that era of pro wrestling, you wouldn't even get to where we're at today. Wouldn't have happened. And The Undertaker, that first match, McCallion, I'm not sure if you've seen it yet, that first match The Undertaker had with Mario. I'll send you the link if you haven't seen it, but it's seamless. Mario's performance is seamless with Taker. So Larry,
Mario sure's got it in his soul. It sounds like something. I mean, I didn't have a chance. My dad just turned 96 years old.
Oh, God bless
and God bless him. He still drives 100%. He's got a pacemaker and some stuff. But I was with him, and he lives by Sarasota, and I didn't have a chance. I didn't get to see the Hall of Fame inductions. I didn't get to watch any WrestleMania this year. But just by listening to Mario, I mean, my God, Mario, instead of torturing your soul, get it out of your system and live happily ever after. You want to challenge some, throw it out and see what happens.
I mean,
but if you keep it in you, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
I could never let it go to the point where 11 years ago, Roma and I opened up a company, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, and we have the wrestling school and the promotion, and we did work in it in the beginning, and I was content. You know what I mean? I was content, and you do get older, and your heart wants it. And even if you go in there and try it, your body goes, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I got so frustrated with a student about 3 weeks ago. He keeps rolling on his ass, rolling. I go, "Bring your hips forward, land on your shoulder blades, bring your hips forward." Just couldn't do it. So I went in there and said, boom. Like that, boom. And the students are like, "Oh my God, he's taking bumps." You know what I mean? But I've really had enough. I mean, Roma sent me the video. I think he was there that night. He said of the Rockers working with this kid, and the kid landed straight on top of his head. And they went to roll him over, and he said, "I'm paralyzed. I can't move." And he's paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of his life. You could never call that guy a jabroni. My God, you know what I mean? He was in there to do a job, and
it's a brutal business. I mean,
so like I tell my students, I go, "Listen, you can't go in there with half a brain. You can't go in there half-hearted. You have to go in there focused and ready to do what you're going to do, or else one wrong move and you'll be rolling yourself around for the rest of your life. You got to know what you're doing in there." You know what I mean? And for the older wrestlers in the company, this is what I tell them. Well, I go, "Listen, you're 54 years old. I really want to do this match though, boss." I go, "Okay, but this is what I want you to do until the show. What do you want me to do?" I go on YouTube and watch every Strongbow match you can watch. And I guarantee you, if you watch 10 matches and he took 3 bumps, that was a lot. I mean, so
Chief was a classic.
Yeah,
Chief was a classic.
Yeah, Chief's saying was always less is more. You know what I mean? So, I know what I'm doing in the ring. I was always very comfortable and very confident when I got in there. Even working with guys like Harley Race and Terry Funk, guys like that, I kept the poker face, but again, 2 other legends, I'm like, wow, I'm working with these guys, unbelievable. You know what I mean? I broke into the wrestling business. I didn't break into the entertainment business. I broke into the wrestling. I wanted to wrestle. I broke into the wrestling business. And I wanted to, back in our day, it was you'd see a new guy, and the first question would be not how he looked or anything like that. The first question would be, can he work? Does he know how to work? So that was a big thing. Do you know how to work? That's not the thing anymore. They don't give a damn if you can work or not.
No.
As long as you got the jib and you got the body and you can talk, you're a professional wrestler. Well, that's not the business I broke into.
No. The times have changed. We're in another era.
Yeah, right.
And even the fans have changed because there used to be wrestlers and the fans, but they're really not fans anymore. They're part of the show. They're one big millions and millions of the WWE Universal. They're family. They got their signs. They got their chants. They're part of the show and they love it. They don't care what it is. They just love being there and watching, really, again, amazing athletes. But, you know, if they make it past 40 without an artificial part, they're damn lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Larry, I've got a question for you. It's popped on the screen here from Askabum. Larry, yep, $2. Larry, what's your top 5 toughest wrestlers in a shoot? Who are your top 5 toughest wrestlers in a shoot?
You know what? To be honest with you, I never had a shoot in the ring with another professional wrestler because they weren't. When I was coming along, it was already that art of shooting was already becoming an old school thing. The Carl Gotches were gone, you know, the Billy Robinsons were too old. And to make money, it was getting over with the crowd. So it turned more into a show thing than a shoot thing. And most of the guys were great athletes and knew some stuff. There were some good amateurs like Kurt Angle and maybe some others. But the shooters are kind of a thing of the past. That's what's exciting me about Shoot Pro. They're bringing back an ancient sport. And these shooters will beat anybody, and the stars are going to rise to the top. And I think Mario, if you'd like to have one more match, well, let me know if you ever have one, Mario.
Well,
I don't know what's going on, but I know it's driving you nuts.
Yeah. 1 second. We got another ask. Okay. He says, I'm asking about in real fights. So the viewer is asking in real fights. Who would be your 5 toughest wrestlers? If they were in a real fight, who would they be?
You know, I never thought about it that way, but I mean, there's one guy I was a big fan of when he first started was Brock Lesnar. I mean, Brock Lesnar looked like, you know.
I have a Brock Lesnar story because I've been in the ring with Brock.
Yeah.
Go ahead, McCallion. Go ahead.
I was as Mario. I was an enhancement talent for a segment with Brock Lesnar a couple years ago on SmackDown, and you know, to rouge the true being, we're behind the curtain, you know, and me and my tag team partner, the other member of Delirium here with me and Amir, Richie Slade, also known as Slade, we're back there with Paul Heyman and Brock and Sami Zayn. And it's literally 5 minutes before show goes live and we're opening SmackDown, you know, this segment. And we don't know what we're taking, but we know what we're taking. Something, you know. And, you know, my partner Slade, he goes to Paul. He goes, hey, Paul, what's Brock going to give us in this, you know? And he goes, yeah, that's a good question. And he looks at my partner, and then Brock goes, you know, I'll just kick you in the gut, and then I'll give you something. And then Paul goes, you look like you can fight to me. So he goes, why don't you raise a fist to Brock? And then Brock goes, and then I'll give you some Brock shit. And they were like, all right. And then the only thing we knew was the F5 was reserved for Sammy, you know. So unless, you know, he went off script and just wanted to F5 everybody. So it actually turned out really fun. But the reason I bring it up is that Brock, when Brock handles you, as you were saying, Larry, he is a strong human being, no matter what. So I watched him throw my partner first. He attacked him first. And I watched him pick him up like a baby, like he weighed nothing. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. You know, so when he picked me up, I literally levitated off the ground as he picked me up, I think with one arm, and just tosses you. The speed he's tossing you, your movement changes, because I was aiming to go over the top rope. But as he hurls you across the ring with force, and not just guides you on your way, I ended up hitting the second, trying to cover the top, and it was like a car accident, like I hit the wall. So then he just kicked me right in the spleen, and I landed face next to my partner like this, and I said to him, you good? And he's like, I think I broke my arm. I was like, oh yeah, he just kicked my spleen in. And that was just what we only took one move each from the man. So I figured I'd just, add my 2 cents.
Yeah. But my era, the era of the guys, there weren't a lot of shooters left,
Not a
Rick Rude workers, and
Rick
we had
Rude,
to work because we had to draw money. We didn't care about who's the tough guy. Who's going to draw money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally different world, like you were saying there. I do see a comment. I'm not going to put it on the screen because we run hard and strict rules here on Masterclass.
Actually, my battery's about to run out.
You're about to run out? Okay, all right. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we will wrap it up here, Larry, since you're going to be phasing out here. But one of our fans just said, I'm curious what future interviews with today's wrestlers will look like. Definitely not like this one today. Thank you for that. That's a compliment. And I hope that at least McCallion and myself will be able to tell invigorating stories in 20 years from now, just like these legends join us. So hopefully there'll be some of us left.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, when Shoot Pro gets started, and it shouldn't be long, maybe a month it might be on Trilla, I don't know, but it's going to be so new. It's a real sport from thousands of years old. I mean, it's brutal. It's an art and a science of anatomy. I think people are going to get into it. And Mario, if you ever throw out a challenge and it gets accepted, let me know.
Well, I tell you what,
it would be an honor to be trained. I just, there's the evidence is out there. You can look at it at YouTube on that interview, and he's calling, guys jabronis. You can watch his Hall of Fame speech.
I'd rather not. I don't. Yeah.
He didn't meet me. He didn't meet me. I wanted to shake his hand for 10 seconds. The year that he was going into the Hall of Fame, he was at the same. He was at the same con I was at. The big event in Queens. Just wanted to go up and shake his hand and go, I'm glad I kicked it off for you. 10 seconds. That's it. Never got the opportunity.
Yeah.
Listen, there's one thing I learned about the wrestling business in 41 years. No one's bigger than it. Mm-hmm. No matter who you are. Nobody's bigger than it, and at the end, everybody's a jobber in the end.
Mario, that's our responsibility as the old generation. The audience needs a new generation because we get too old, we die, we get hurt. That's life, reality, and nature.
Yes,
yep,
sir.
That's what happens.
And just one final note, because there's no such thing as death. We're immortal, electromagnetic consciousness. The body is a temporary vehicle in this third dimension.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in the Iron Age. That's why things are kind of weird right now and stuff. But we're all the same, and we should have a great time on this beautiful living planet. And Mario, let me know if you get a challenge out. I'll show you a couple of tricks.
We're going to do that.
Thank you so much.
Larry, if you want to disconnect, that's fine. I'm going to keep this
open. My battery's going to beat me to it.
Okay.
I got the stupid cord.
I'm going to let you head out. I want to thank you so much for being a guest here. Mario McCallion. Yep, the flip phone.
OG Motorola. That's it.
That's it. Mario and McCallion will stay on a little bit because I want to open up the forum to our viewers. If you want to ask some questions, again, use the super chats to do so. We got Brock Lesnar just said there's only one man I fear, and that's Mario Mancini. Now, I don't know if that's the real Brock Lesnar because he only gave us $2. If it was the real one, I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel like the real one would have pitched in a little more.
Yeah, a little bit more than that.
Well, guys,
Larry, it was great chatting with you, Larry.
It's been a fun time, and I'm sure we'll be talking again as soon as Shoot Pro gets on the air, because I'd say once people watch it, realize it's real and dangerous and an ancient
they're all going to want to try it out.
Yep. It's going to be amazing. So,
and I tell you what, Larry, Mario, like I said, I know you'll handle Mario well, and definitely, we'll be talking also with Frank.
Give me my number, give me a buzz, and we'll see what happens.
Mario might be that next big thing that you were talking about. We don't know who it is yet, so maybe Mario's the one.
Maybe Mario will be the one.
You
to
never
break
know. That's the
Never know.
exciting thing. The stars will be born in front of our eyes, and we have no idea because it's real.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
All right,
Good luck,
Larry. Well, I'll
guys.
let you sign off. McCallion, Mario, let's stay here for a little bit longer. See if we get any other questions
Okay.
come in.
My battery's
Larry-
blinking.
All right. We'll be in contact with you, Larry. So
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Larry.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you
thank
for your
you guys.
contribution.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys. It's been fun.
Thank you. God bless you, Larry. So yeah, it was a tremendous experience there. But Mario, yeah, I'm glad that you asked Larry that, because I know it's been bothering you for a while. Let's just put it that way.
It's been bothering me since the big event. And you know what? I listen to a lot of guys and go, listen, you can't be angry at Mark because of Fetterman, he might not even knew you were there. And I'm like, okay, I'll accept that. And then I watched the Hall of Fame speech, and I'm like, dude, you're not better than me.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're better than me.
No.
You know what I mean? There's guys I knock into at a gas station, and they're 6'10", and I look right at them and I go, excuse me, and they look at me and you go, yeah. I go, if I had your height, I would have been a multimillionaire. I mean, there are a lot of factors that go into his success in his God-given height.
Mm-hmm.
He was given a gimmick. The gimmick was more over than him. The gimmick. Now, when he inducted his wife into the Hall of Fame, you can read the comments. The music still makes my hair stand up on my arm.
Yeah.
What an awesome entrance. It's all about the gimmick. The gimmick got over.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And some things fit like a glove. Some people get really
Every
lucky.
pun intended.
Yeah, some people get really lucky. They get really lucky.
Touche.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying they don't have the talent to carry the gimmick.
Yeah.
The perfect example is when Stone Cold was married to somebody from the UK. And she said, would you like a cup of tea? And he said, sure. And she put it near him, and he didn't drink it right away. And she goes, you better drink your tea before it gets stone cold. And he went,
Mm-hmm.
He became Stone Cold Steve Austin. But you know what? Nobody else could have been Stone Cold Steve Austin. Only he could be. Okay. And that's kind of the Taker thing with the gimmick. I mean, let's face it. His gimmick in WCW wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
If he never had the Taker, and you had a guy who was nervous that he was going to be the gobbledygooper. He was nervous about that. And Vince called him and said, is this the Undertaker? And he went, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know what? Be humble.
Yeah.
Be thankful.
Yeah.
Be thankful where you are. Be thankful that you're still relevant. Be thankful that you're still hauling in big dollars.
Yeah.
You're 60 years old and you're still hauling it in, man. Big money.
Mario, I can touch on the fact of something you said that I can relate with is we have guys on the indies, I won't name names, but they're nervous to do things. And it's weird how the promotion, regardless if these guys have a gimmick or not, because a lot of these guys don't, but the promotion sees big things in them. But what really shows character is you having the ability and backing it up, you being in the sport, believing in yourself. When the guy that's pegged to be the next big thing, gimmick or not, and they don't believe in themselves, even to go out and speak to people, to open up to people, to say, hey, come to our show. Right. It's so questionable. Amir was there for this too. Yeah. And it's been, numerous people throughout the years, but it's very questionable to me about a lot of the bookers I still work for. If they're watching, if they are eavesdropping into our program, they pick these people that don't have the heart or the grit, but the promotion sees them in a bigger light or bigger role. Your character should prevail, and that should be the draw, because someone who can show that they can man up and do the job they're asked to do is the guy that will go the longest in the position that they're in for.
Right.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good. McCallion, I want to jump in quickly. Mario, it's just going to be you and I, and we got another question here from Askabom. But McCallion has some business to tend to. I have actually someone he has to go and take out for Delirium. So he's going to, and when I say take out, I mean,
I have to go mask up in proper form. That's when I kind of lose my mind.
So I mean, take him out, because some guy who's taking liberties with us on the independent scene, I just want him wiped out tonight. So McCallion's going to go and take care of him.
You are the master.
Yep, he's going to go and take
you
care
know
of
what,
him.
Mario? Thank you for your time, Master.
Thank you, brother.
I will do exactly what we had said earlier today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No worries.
Thank you very much, McCallion. We will see you next week.
Stand with Delirium.
Indeed, stand with Delirium. All right. So Mario, we see right there as we come to the close here. We'll give him a few more minutes here. Mario Ascabom says, "What if we had Undertaker Mancini ? Smiley face." Ascabom, what do you mean by this? Mario, do you know what he means by that?
Well, I'm going to say to Ascabom, and he doesn't know this, that there were already Undertakers, and they were close to 400 pounds apiece. The Puccio brothers from they were either from the Bronx or they were from New York, two sweetheart of guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they called themselves the Undertakers. In fact, when the and they registered it. Okay. So when the gimmick came into the WWE, they got a lawyer and they worked it out where they bought the Undertaker from both of them.
The gimmick. They bought the name.
And Vince agreed to book him for a year, which he did. They never saw TV, but he booked him for a year and paid him for the name. So, you know, there were other Undertakers. I wouldn't have wanted to be the Undertaker. You know, you're going to get a lot for your $2, because what I wanted was a tool belt, a red hat with an M on it, and I had to finish top rope, spread my legs, and ass bump the guy in his chest, and I wanted to be Super Mario Mancini, and that would have fit.
Yeah.
But nobody wanted to pay Nintendo, so that went by the wayside.
Yeah.
So, you know, I got my job. I was scouted for my job through a friendship. A lawyer I met in 1992, and I was friends with him for 3 years. And I knew nothing about the profession of law whatsoever. And I said, I turned him down twice. And I said, "Why do you want me to work for you?" He said, "Because you have superior communication skills that would be very beneficial in the profession." And I ended up, you know, that was 95. I ended up going there in my second year of college, and I did end up going to law school. And, you know, other lawyers will ask their opinion of me, and they'll say, "Well, you know, he's a really good communicator." That being said, you know, even when I was younger, I was dying for the microphone. I did a Cayman Island tour with SD Jones, Rocky Johnson, the Samoans. And I needed police escort because I was a heel. I cut a promo that they sent a month ahead of time to show on TV. I cut a promo, and when I got there, they were throwing bottles at me, glass bottles. I mean, I ended the match 8 minutes early because I'm like, I'm not getting hit in the head. You know,
Mario, can I just interject quickly, Mario, there, because I know we get viewers that jump in at different times. So I wanted to reiterate to the viewers just joining us here. We had Larry Zbyszko on today from Shoot Pro Wrestling, a new company that I've stated time and time again is eerily reminiscent to Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff's company, who claim there's nothing else like it, but yet there is Shoot Pro Wrestling. During that segment of the show, Mario came in because he was texting me throughout the show, and he had a conversation with Larry Zbyszko. Now, Mario has asked Larry to train him in Shoot Pro Wrestling style, which is not like Pro Wrestling Entertainment Wrestling style, because he has officially laid out a challenge to Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, for a Shoot Pro style wrestling encounter. I just wanted to update anybody, Mario, that wasn't here earlier, who's here now, because it's top of a new hour. And I also wanted to invite anybody who has a question and wants it answered. Use the super chats, the super stickers. You can use those right there on the YouTube tools there. And anybody who hits us with a super chat, a super sticker donation, we will answer that question live. So sorry about that, Mario. I just want to interject and bring everybody up.
No, I mean, I just, I'm a jabroni. He constantly calls us jabronis, and that's so disrespectful. And in a business, that's all about respect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I tell my students, I tell their parents, I go, you think martial arts has respect?
Yeah.
It pales in comparison to professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Martial arts
I mean?
does have a lot of respect, Mario. I did martial arts for a decade of my life. I dedicated it to Shotokan karate, Jinsei-kai, and there's a lot of respect in that business. A lot of respect, and you don't hear about. Again, you don't. There may be rumblings, you know, behind the curtain between guys, but if anybody else says it publicly, you better believe that sensei is going to come down hard. I mean, you just need to watch Cobra Kai to understand exactly what happens. It's a discipline,
Right.
and it is. It's a travesty for somebody to say that, especially during a Hall of Fame speech. You know, it's not a. You know, you don't disrespect what I see again is when we do a show, like when Delirium does a show. Not that we like anybody on the card, because you know they're all our opponents. We don't like anybody. We're the ones that are going to change society, not them. But nonetheless, we respect the fact that it takes an army to put on the show. Not, you know, everybody is important, from the guy who sets up the ring to the commentary to the guy who hands out the flyers for the next show, to the guys that set up the ring, to the individuals who hand the gear to take it backstage, the ring announcer. Everybody's important, because without that, and then without the fans, there is no pro wrestling business. You know?
Listen, I look at Van Dam in such a different light now.
Rob?
Watching him say that he went for the Sheik to train him, and all he did was put up the ring and take it back down and not even go in it. He just kept putting it up and taking it down, putting it up and taking it down, and Sheik was showing him nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really paying your dues. That's old school paying your dues. You know, I'm so close to David Schultz, you know, as a friend. And what brought that closeness was August 9th, 1984. My second professional match where he broke my nose in 2 places, just as a welcome to professional wrestling. You know, I grew up in this business in a different era, and Mark Henry got really mad at me because I was mad at Taker, and I mentioned his payday for an autograph session, and I know that Mark Henry still hasn't forgiven me, probably. You know what I mean? I like Mark Henry. I think he's a really nice guy. I think he's a gentle giant. But, you know, he doesn't disrespect. You know, this is the respect I got from Mark Henry before he got mad at me. Mm-hmm. He was at a wrestling convention, and I'm right next to Mark Henry in the encyclopedia. Mm-hmm. So the fan opens up the encyclopedia. He already saw me in Rhode Island, and I signed it. And he opens it up, and I'm right next to Mark Henry. And Mark Henry looks at it and he goes, "And Mario Mancini really signed that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I saw him in Rhode Island. He really signed it." Mm-hmm. I said, "Man, I'd love to meet him." Mm-hmm. You know, it's that mutual respect.
Yeah,
there's got to be until Mark Henry got mad at me.
Oh my gosh!
But you know, it's you know, you're not bigger than the business. You are not the holy grail. I mean, you're going to get the respect you deserve. You're going to get the recognition that you deserve. And Taker has an incredible reputation. The WrestleMania run streak, the 30 years I worked with Rick, he was fine.
You looking at that, Rick Rude?
Rick Rude was my last match in the WWF, April 26, 1992, in Huntsville, Alabama. He was my last match, and he was fine.
So he said, yeah, because Asuka Bomb said again, was Rick Rude dangerous in the ring? I just wanted to let everybody know that, who's only for the people who are only listening and not watching. So yeah, so you said Rick Rude was fine. He was not dangerous.
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Interesting. Yeah. No, Rick Rude was definitely a true talent. In fact, I was watching something on him the other day because I couldn't believe, Mario, just a side tangent here. When you look at Rude in 1989, See, he passed when he was 39 in 1998. So he was in his 20s. I can't believe how mature he looked for being so young. If you put him up against a guy who's 28, 29 now, these guys look like teenagers compared to him.
You got to. I did watch something on Rude a couple of weeks ago where he was working with a jobber, and the jobber, he must have hit him a little too hard, and Rude beat the living daylights out of him. I mean, you could clearly see the difference. He beat the snot out of the kid. You know what I mean? Yeah. But for me personally, for Mario Mancini, I had Strongbow.
Okay.
So even if somebody didn't know me, Strongbow would go, "You're working with Mancini. He's a veteran. He's been here for a while. He's, you know what I mean? You don't have to worry about anything with him." And all of a sudden things got really light. You know what I mean? Even if they didn't know me, you know what I mean? I missed Savage by one match. I was his second match. Okay. You know, after I was in there for a while, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, I was a steady staple there. So when these guys looked up and saw Mario Mancini, I'm good. You know what I mean? So I didn't have to worry about that. That being said, I got the snot knocked out of me the first 2 years. Mm-hmm. I got the hell beat out of me. But you know what? It was thank you, sir. Can I have another?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just looking at a question here. So apparently the source of that was, and again, I've met Jake. He's been nice to me, Jake Roberts. It was apparently Jake Roberts that said that Rude was dangerous. So again, maybe it was just in a match. Maybe it was something that they had. And, I see a question here coming in from another, sorry, Doug, Larry is not on the air with us. He already departed from this episode, but trust he will be back soon, Doug. So just watch us again. If you want to ask any questions, Doug, though, about what transpired, or Mario here, Doug, I know I've seen you here before. Mario put out a challenge, an official challenge, to Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, today to a shoot-style wrestling match. Larry Zbyszko has offered to train him as part of Shoot Pro Wrestling. That's the company that involves Frank Shamrock, Pat Miletich from the UFC. So big news, breaking news here today. There's a lot going on, a lot of stuff. Fans, Mario, we're going to give him 3 to 4 more minutes. So if anybody wants to get in any other questions, please use the super chats, the super stickers. Right now, we're gonna tune out here at about 6:15, 6:16-ish if we don't have any more questions. So I'm just putting that out there. But I do also want to say Mario and Paul and I will be live this Friday. Just go to our playlist, Power and Glory, and you can make sure that you like that video. Make sure that you hit the notifications bell there and tune in. We will be going live this Friday. We'll be discussing the legendary career of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. And, of course, his tag team with Paul Roma, Pretty Wonderful, and Paul's time during WCW. And we will be open forum if anyone wants to ask us any questions there. Same rules as today apply. If you want to hit a super sticker, a super chat, we will answer those questions. And Mario, as you see, I put here across the bottom of the screen something that we're advertising on all of our shows here on the Masters of Wrestling now. If you, the fan, want to appear in a 5-minute segment with us live, so that means your face will appear on the screen with us, and you want to interact with us on a future live episode with a $50 donation, you will be on the show with us. But of course, keep it PG. You know, if anybody does go way off script and says anything that is too risque, we'll just refund you your money and cut you off. Them's are the rules. So, but I just wanted to get that out as we got about a minute and a half left, Mario. So you got anything to say before we depart today?
You know, I just don't want to have people think I'm off my rocker, because a month from today I will be 59, but I'm not dead, and I get around pretty well, and I still go in the ring and do some things, and I just, I've had it. I've had it. The guy can just say, listen, and I've said some things in the past, and the business wouldn't have been what it was without these guys. And I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
But he has zero respect for.
And we're talking about the Undertaker.
Yeah, the Undertaker. Me and dozens of other guys that came in with the same dream he had, and it never happened. And he, you know what? By the grace of God, he should just thank God. He is where he is, and he got the gimmick that he got.
Well, he should thank God. He claims to be a man of faith. Now he claims to believe in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Well,
and without that, nothing would be possible. If he claims that, he needs to be cognizant of the fact that God has given him that platform, that ability, and everybody who helped him get there should be thanked, not condemned, not insulted. So, that's the thing. We'll see if Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, responds to this. I mean, obviously, once you get in training with Larry or, whoever, if you work with Frank Shamrock and Pat Miletich, if all of this comes together, I'm sure we'll put a timeline on it, maybe 12 months from now, if Undertaker accepts, to give you guys both 12 months to prepare, to get ready. And then obviously it'll be going live on Shoot Pro Wrestling. So, but we'll keep everyone posted on that. Mario, like I said, it was an absolute pleasure for you to be here today. I wasn't expecting it, but I know you were watching us as you always do with your support. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank our viewers. I also want to thank Askabom, who asked, which actually I thought about it. Funny name, huh? Now I hear myself saying it. Askabom.
Well, hopefully he'll be here on Friday. So
hopefully you'll be back on Friday, Askabom, and we'll be sure to answer some more of your questions. Until then, everybody, make sure that you hit that subscribe button immediately. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video, and make sure you tell everybody, and I mean everybody, about the Masters of Wrestling, the podcast right here on YouTube, where our entire team, Mr. Mario Mancini, Paul Roma, Rico Constantino, McCallion, and myself, the Master, are here each and every week to entertain and educate all of you. That's it. That's my end statement. Mario, any final words?
God bless. Everybody stay safe. I'll say it today in case you guys aren't here on Friday. Have a safe Memorial Day weekend.
Yep, indeed. Have a safe Memorial Day weekend, and God bless each and every one of you. We'll see you. Well, I'll see you actually tomorrow. Anybody who wants to come back, I'll be live tomorrow with Rico Constantino, Royce Crush Adams, the son of Crush, and Pat Tanaka. So I'll be back tomorrow with them on Styling tomorrow afternoon. Look for the link in the playlist, and then I'll be back with you, Mario and Paul, on Friday. Until then, everybody, God bless and take care. We'll see you next time.